here is Mr. Bernstein.
Give me that spray. Behind you, the spray. Oh, there's no time? No time? Oh. All right. Okay. Okay. Now, what do you think that music's all about? Can you tell me? Start. That's just what I thought you'd say. Cowboys, bandits, horses, the Wild West. I know my little daughter, Jamie, who's 5 years old and is sitting up there, agrees with you. When she heard me play this piece, she said, "Ooh, the Lone Ranger song. I owe silver." Well, I hate to disappoint her, and you too, but it really isn't about the Lone Ranger at all. It's about notes, E flats and F sharps. You see, no matter how many times people tell you stories about what music means, forget them. Stories aren't what music means about at all. Music is never about anything. Music just is. Music is notes, beautiful notes and sounds put together in such a way that we get pleasure out of listening to them. That's all there is to it. And when we ask, what does it mean? What does this piece of music mean? Then we're asking a very hard question. And that's the question we're going to try to answer today. Now, it's a funny thing about this meaning business, in music anyway. When you say, what does it mean, what you're really saying is, what is it trying to tell me? What ideas does it make me have? Just like words. When you hear words, you get ideas from them. If I say to you, "Oh, I burned my finger," then immediately you get an idea from what I said, or some ideas. You get the idea that I burned my finger, that it hurts, that I might not be able to play the piano anymore, or that I have a loud, ugly voice when I scream. Lots of different ideas like that. That's words. But if I play you notes, just notes on the piano like that, those notes don't tell you any ideas. Those notes aren't about burning your finger, or Sputniks, or lampshades, or rockets, or anything. Well, what are they about? They're about music. For instance, take this piece by Chopin. Beautiful, isn't it? But what's it about? Nothing. Or take this Beethoven sonata. That's not about anything either. Or take this piece of boogie woogie. It's not about anything either. They're none of them about anything. But they're all fun to listen to. Why should they be fun to listen to? I don't know. It's just part of human nature to like to listen to music. You see, notes aren't like words at all. Because if I say one single word all by itself to you, like rocket, immediately you have an idea. You see a picture in your mind. Rocket, bang, picture. But if I play a note, one note all alone, that means nothing. Just a plain old F sharp or a B flat A sound, that's all. Higher or lower, louder or softer. A sound that can seem very different if I play it, or if I sing it, or if an oboe plays it, or if a xylophone plays it, or if a trombone plays it. Very different. It's all the same note, only with a different sound. Now, all music is a combination of sounds like that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, all put together according to a plan. And the guy who plans it is called the composer, whether he's named Richard Rogers or Rimsky-Korsakov. He's the composer. And his plan is to put the sounds together with rhythms and different instruments and voices or whatever in such a way that what finally comes out is exciting or fun or touching or interesting or all of those together. That's called music, and it has a musical meaning, which has nothing to do with any stories or pictures or anything like that. Of course, if there is a story connected to the music, okay. Sometimes it's good. In a way, it should give an extra meaning to the music, but it's extra. Remember that. And so, whatever music means, it's not the story. Well, what does it mean? That's what we're going to find out. Now, let's take the first step to finding out. Remember the piece we played at the beginning? That Wild West piece of music. Well, for one thing, it can't mean the Wild West, for the simple reason that it was written by a fellow who never heard of the Wild West, an Italian named Rossini. We think his music means cowboys and horses and the Wild West because we've been told so by so many movies and television shows. But Rossini really wrote this piece as an overture to an opera called William Tell, which is about people in Switzerland, which is pretty far from the Wild West. Well then, maybe the music's supposed to be about William Tell and Switzerland instead of about cowboys. Is that what it's about? No. It's not about William Tell or cowboys or lampshades or rockets or anything. Then what makes it so exciting? Well, there are a million reasons. But they're all musical reasons. That's the main point. For instance, take the rhythm, which is like the rhythm of galloping horses, or like the rhythm of drums in a battle. But that doesn't mean that the music is about drums or horses or battles. The meaning is only the excitement of that rhythm, you see. Now, another reason it's exciting is that it has a mighty fine tune, one that's easy to remember and stirs your blood. It starts with a phrase going up, and answers itself with a phrase going down. It's like a question and answer, or maybe it's more like an argument with the second person winning it. Let's try and have that argument, you and me, and see who wins. I'm going to sing the first phrase, and you're going to argue back with the second phrase. And I'm going to argue back again with the third phrase. And you're going to wind it up with the fourth phrase. Okay? Ready? Go. You win. You see? You see how exciting that last phrase is? It has all the excitement and triumph of winning an argument. It makes you feel good. But there are still more reasons why this music is exciting. For instance, the way it's played, the instruments that play it, like those trumpets at the beginning. Or the violins, who use their bows in a jumping way to make that galloping sound. Would you show us, Mr. Corigliano? You see? Now, when all the strings do that together, it really gallops. Watch. So you see, this music is exciting because it was written to be exciting, for musical reasons and for no other reasons. Well, if all that's true, then why does the composer put names on his music at all? Why doesn't he just write something called symphony or trio or composition number 95012 or anything? Why does he give his music a name like The Sorcerer's Apprentice or whatever it happens to be if it's not important to the music? Well, every once in a while, an artist is stimulated to express himself by something outside himself, something he reads or something he sees or something that's happened to him. Haven't you ever felt like that you wanted to dance or sing because something happened to you that made you want to dance or sing and express your feelings in some way? I'm sure that you've all had that feeling. Well, it's the same with a composer. For instance, Johann Strauss wrote an awful lot of waltzes. One of them goes like this. You know the name of this one? Right, the Blue Danube. Now, maybe the Danube River inspired Strauss to write that waltz. I don't know. I have my doubts. But in any case, those notes don't have anything to do with the Danube River, do they? Now, what's this one? What? Right, Tales of the Vienna Woods. Well, why couldn't that one be called By the Blue Danube? Or the Emperor Waltz? Or the Tennessee Waltz? Or the Missouri Waltz, for that matter? What's the difference? A Strauss waltz by any other name is still just a lovely waltz. The name doesn't matter, except to help you tell one waltz apart from another, and maybe give the music a little more color, like a sort of fancy dress costume. Well, now I'm going to try a trick with you. We're going to play you a piece that has a story, very good story, but I'm going to tell you the wrong story. I'm just going to make one up out of my head that doesn't belong to this music at all, and I'm not going to tell you the real name of this piece. And you see if the story and the music don't go together just as well as if it were the real story. Okay, here goes. In the middle of a big city, there stands an enormous jail full of prisoners. It's midnight, and all the prisoners are asleep, except for one who can't sleep because he was put in jail unjustly. And he spends the whole night practicing on his kazoo while all the other prisoners are sleeping and snoring all around him. You all know what a kazoo is, you know? Well, this kazoo-playing prisoner has a friend who's going to come and rescue him tonight, and this friend's name is Superman. So, Superman comes charging down through the alley on his motorcycle. Then he whistles his secret whistle so that his friend, the prisoner, will know he's coming. Now, as he gets nearer the prison, he hears all the prisoners snoring away peacefully in the dead silence of the night. And over this snoring, he hears his friend playing on his kazoo, which gets louder and louder as he gets nearer. Suddenly, he charges into the prison yard and bops the guard over the head. So the kazoo stops playing, and with all the snoring still going on, he grabs his friend and whisks him away on his motorcycle. The snoring gets farther and farther away until we don't hear it at all anymore. And our hero arrives at last to freedom. That's the story. Now, let's hear how this music sounds all put together. And remember to keep this story in your mind. Here goes. Here comes Superman. Here's the whistle. There goes the snoring. There's the kazoo. And now here comes Superman. Pop! Grabs his friend. And they're off. The snoring gets softer. They're free! Now, all that makes good sense, doesn't it? Makes perfectly good sense, but that's not the real story at all. What this piece really is part of a much longer piece by Richard Strauss called Don Quixote. And in it, Strauss was trying to tell a whole other story, which goes something like this. Don Quixote is the name of a silly old man back in the days of knights in armor and horseback, a foolish old man who read too many books about knighthood and chivalry and conquering armies for his beautiful lady and all that sort of nonsense, and who finally decided he was a marvelous knight himself. So off he goes on his skinny, bony old horse to conquer the world. And he has with him a companion named Sancho Panza, a little fat, jolly fellow who is very faithful to his master, but who is also sensible enough to know that his master is a little cuckoo. So we hear him laughing at old Don Quixote. Suddenly, Don Quixote spies a flock of sheep in the middle of a field going ba, ba. That's all that stuff you heard before, which we thought was snoring. And with them is a shepherd keeping the sheep and playing on his pipes the way all shepherds do. Not a kazoo, but a shepherd's pipe. And Don Quixote, in his mixed-up mind, thinks that the sheep are an army specially put there for him to conquer. So in he charges with his sword flashing. And the sheep run off in all directions, baaing wildly. And he's convinced he has done a truly knightly deed. And is he proud? Now, let's listen to it all over again with the real story in mind and see how it sounds. was that music any different from what we played before? Was it? Is it more exciting, or more fun, or better music? No. Does it have any different musical meaning? No. It's exactly the same, only the story is different. And in fact, there are 100 other stories I could have made up out of my head for the same piece of music. But the music would still have been just as good or just as bad as it is without any story at all. Now do you see what I mean? Well, if you don't, then I'm going to have to try again. I'll take another little bit of this Don Quixote piece of Strauss. Later in that same piece, there's another part about another adventure the old fellow has when he and his friend Sancho Panza take a wild ride through the air on a wooden horse. It goes like this. Now, in this part, there's even a wind machine in the percussion section to give you the effect of wind whistling by as they whoosh up and down through the clouds. Now, why couldn't this music be describing the flight of a jet plane? Or a satellite whistling around in its orbit? Or maybe some old giant snoring like the prisoners in the jail, going... Could be. Well, now let's make believe it is about some old giant snoring and see how the music fits. Isn't that exciting music? No matter what it's about, it's still exciting. Because the music is exciting and for no other reason. Now, that's enough talk about music that tells stories. Let's take a big step now toward finding out the answer to our first question, what does music mean? By listening to some music that doesn't try to tell a story, but only tries to paint a picture in a general sort of way. Or to describe an atmosphere, the look of something, the feel of something, like a night in the woods or an old haunted house or a sunrise. Now we're getting closer to real musical meaning because we don't have a story to worry about while we're listening. You see, all we have to think about is the general idea, and that's easier, so we can concentrate more on the music and enjoy it more. Now, for instance, take Beethoven's Sixth Symphony. Here's a wonderful piece full of charming tunes and marvelous rhythms, driving, peaceful, happy, all kinds of things. But in Beethoven's mind, this symphony was somehow tied up with the idea of the countryside. Farmers, brooks, shepherds, birds. And so he called it the Pastoral Symphony. As you know, pastoral means anything to do with the country. At the beginning of the first movement, he wrote the words, "Awakening of cheerful feelings on arriving in the country." And the music goes like this. Sounds happy, cheerful, pretty, all right. But these feelings, after all, could be happy for any other reason, too. Supposing Beethoven had written the words, "Happy feelings because my uncle left me $1 million." Or happy feelings because my bellyache went away. He could still have written this happy music and it would have been just as good and just as happy. Well, now let's try something. Let's change the title of this piece and call it happy feelings because my bellyache went away. That's it. And let's listen to it with that in mind and see if it sounds any different. Still the same happy music, whether it's about your bellyache or a trip to the country. Now, the second movement, Beethoven calls By the Brook. And in this movement, he is trying to describe or imitate or suggest the motion of water in the brook. But supposing we call this asleep in a hammock, and that this motion we're describing gently rocking back and forth in a hammock instead of the water. Let's see how the music would sound then. See, it doesn't change a thing, does it? Whether it's about water or swinging in a hammock, it's the same lovely music.